Brazen crimes caught on camera show exactly why American cities are under siege. Check out what happened at a Walgreens in San Francisco. This is a man in broad daylight looting a store and just filling up a garbage bag. Then he just casually rides his bike out of the store and onto the street. Walgreens alone has closed 17 stores in the city just because of this rampant theft. And other companies are following suit. And there is some shocking video of a drive-by shooting in Atlanta's wealthy Buckhead neighborhood. People are running for their lives, but cops there aren't allowed to do anything about it. That's thanks to rules that limit police from chasing suspects. Residents in that neighborhood are fed up and they want their own police force.
We are living in a war zone. That's how we describe living in Buckhead. And what has happened here in the last several years is an incredibly dangerous spike in crime and a complete vacuum of leadership. The police in Atlanta are great policemen and women. We love them. They just want to do their job, and they're not being allowed to do that.
Can anybody explain to me, maybe you can, Greg, why a politician would prohibit police from chasing suspects? Isn't that just telling suspects commit a crime and flee?
No, because what happens if you catch him? What happens if you catch him and that goes awry, and then you have the media there and you have a horde of people holding their phones and going like this? It's not worth it. Why did you think that the security guard in that video in Walgreens barely stuck his hand out to grab the bag? It's because for $20 an hour, it's not worth ruining his life the moment he becomes the suspect, the moment the media says, this poor man was just getting bread to feed his family. He filled the garbage bag with loaves of bread and milk, and then the security guard tackles him. So you can't, there's no interest in doing your job. This is part of the trickle-downing of, trickle-downing?
I like it. I'll allow it.
Of the vilification of police. So if the police aren't there, whoever takes their place will also be vilified, whether it is the private citizen or the security guard, anybody interested in that. We were talking about this a while ago. It's called the Brazilification, where the people who can afford it go back into their gated communities, hire private security. They're armed to the teeth because the state permits a lawlessness that no one else can survive. Lastly, I just want to make the point that, like, while we're talking about this, President Biden is approving this huge plan to tackle domestic terror. So this is happening. This is actually happening in America. But he's interested in this domestic terror. And I'm trying to figure out, like, I know the names of MS-13. I know Al-Qaeda. I know ISIS. Who are these giant gangs that he's talking about that's doing this crime? Like, why aren't we asking that question? Someone's got to talk to Jill.
Drugstores have been locking up items for years, but if you've been shopping recently, you may have noticed more and more products being locked up.
And it includes things like bars of soap, deodorant, even toothbrushes. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor explains why.
This has become a common sight at drugstores around New York City. Aisles and aisles of products under lock and key.
Customer service needed in the dental department.
Shampoos, deodorants. What I'm also seeing is that a lot of stuff is like not even on the shelf.
They have it locked up because sometimes they get boosters that come in there and steal their stuff.
Boosters are people who steal products to resell them.
Then you notice down the street, there's a whole bunch of, I don't know if they're stealing it from here or they're stealing it from another place to sell it here.
We've spoken to several managers at various drugstores around New York City. Though none would go on camera, all tell us they've seen an increase in thefts.
The NYPD says as of September 12th this year, there have been more than 26,000 complaints for shoplifting retail theft in New York City, compared to more than 20,000 for the same time period last year. The National Retail Federation says most retailers blame the increase on the pandemic, with New York ranking 4th for organized retail crime in the past year. Many point to changes in sentencing guidelines and the growth of online marketplaces. The National Association of Shoplifting Prevention spoke with CBS 2 back in July after several big steals on Long Island.
Shoplifting steals from all of us. It steals tax dollars.
CVS says in part, locking product is a measure of last resort, and that different products can experience different theft rates even within the same category, and product protection decisions are data-driven based on the individual losses at each store. And it's not just a New York City issue. San Francisco increased its police department's retail crime unit. As for New York, some stores have security guards. Employees are told not to engage shoplifters, and customers don't blame them.
You're not paid to be a cop.
Until something changes, many say allow extra time when shopping to allow for the unlocking of all your items. Alice Gaynor, CBS 2 News.
Somebody may say, well, these things have been happening for ages. While you may be right, consider this though. If the Jewish people knew killing Jesus Christ would mark the end of their destiny as a chosen nation, they would not have caused him to be killed. Crucifixions happened all the time in Israel as a death sentence. In fact, 3 people were scheduled to be crucified, such as the 2 thieves and Barabbas, due to treason committed by them. But the chief priest and elders persuaded the people that they should ask for Barabbas to be released unto them and destroy Jesus instead, according to Matthew chapter 27, verse number 20. What's happening right now is completely different from before. Today, these things are becoming acceptable, legalizing immorality. Police are being told not to engage these individuals committing those crimes against humanity, etc. And when things get real bad, the people will then beg the government for peace and safety. You will have no choice but to give up your right in exchange for false peace and safety. Religious law that contradicts God's law will then be implemented to combat immorality. And Jesus said in the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse number 3, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." Everything that is happening in the world today are being done intentionally. When the governments of this world begin to dictate as to when and how to worship God through laws, it will be the last action that brings the end of this world. We are living in a time of great deception. Check this out. If someone offered to help you and you say no, that should be it, right? But if you are being forced to accept that so-called help, or else there will be consequences, you should ask yourself some very important questions. I'll leave the rest to your imagination, because that is exactly what's going on in our world today. We all need to wake up and pay close attention. Today is the day of salvation. Tomorrow will be too late. God bless.
Shoplifters in Nassau County will no longer be arrested.
It cuts into profits and eats up police time. Thousands of shoplifting cases on Long Island each year. Now Nassau police are speeding up arrests. No more handcuffing shoplifters and taking them into custody. Instead, they'll issue offenders an appearance ticket, giving them 10 to 20 days to appear at a precinct for fingerprinting and a mugshot.
It's going to turn into a disappearance ticket, and then you'll never see this perpetrator again.
The police union calls the pilot program a mistake less than 2 months after its launch at Nassau's busiest malls, Roosevelt Field and Green Acres.
I think it sends a powerful message to have somebody in handcuffs being led away after they commit a crime.
We're not downgrading crime. The person's still being arrested.
Nassau's acting police commissioner explains it's still an arrest for petty larceny, just streamlined with less paperwork and overtime costs.
The logic behind this is taking an arrest that takes 8 hours of processing and reduce that to 3 to 4 hours of processing, thereby increasing the amount of time spent on patrol.
Roosevelt Field management says it respects police policies. Merchants, though, aren't fully buying into it.
I think to take somebody away in handcuffs, let everybody see him, maybe even a little flash on the news, I think it's more of a deterrent.
But legal experts say it's a nationwide trend to rein in police costs. Shoppers worry it conveys a lax attitude about crime.
Personally, I think they should really bring the hammer down.
Thou shalt not steal. You learn that from a kid up.
Could other misdemeanors like trespassing and marijuana possession be next? Nassau's acting police commissioner says for now this is strictly a shoplifting pilot program. In other words, they'll see how it flies. At the 3rd precinct in Nassau County, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS 2 News.